Yo, what's going on guys? Pansy here. Welcome to my gear progression guide for BDO. In this video, I'm going to go over everything from the beginning, all the way from the early game, mid game, late game, and finally the end game, how to progress your gear step by step. Now, as you can see, we already have quite a few steps here. We're not going to be making a separate sheet for every single step, but I will explain how to go about making the decisions on what to upgrade next and which route to go. Now, do note there are going to be some variations for you if you're not playing exactly what I'm showing here, because you might be playing Awakening versus Succession, you might play Evasion versus DR, and the order in which you do your journals, it's really up to you when you're willing to do them. You don't have to go exactly as I would show, or you don't have to do all of them at a certain point. You could just knock them out as you progress through the game, or you can sit down for a week and just knock all of them out. I mean, that's personal preference, right? All right, let's just dive right into it. Step 1, the beginning stage. You're a beginner. You want to start off in the seasonal server. If you're watching this video and there's no seasonal server going on at the moment, it's very rare that we don't have a seasonal going on. At most, there's a few weeks between seasons where there's a lull. They're probably updating something, or maybe even longer. The longest I've seen is like a month and a half or something like that. But usually there's always a season going on. Majority of the time there is. If there isn't, you can wait for one. But for the sake of this guide, we're going to assume you are on the season server. So the first thing you want to do is get your Naru gear, because at Pen Naru, you can convert these into free Pride Tuvala gear. That'll accelerate your progress. If you are starting off as a beginner and you are going for the Naru gear by the main quest line, or you're grinding as a seasonal character and you're just picking up the rewards from your Black Spirit, that'll give you enough for full pen Naru easily. What you want to do is you want to focus on your weapons first, obviously, and you're going to get these two to pen, the main hand and the offhand. Doesn't take any fail stacks, just slam those black stones. If you want, you can use a maybe 2-3 fail stacks, whatever. But overall, it's really easy to enhance. It's pretty straightforward. I'd personally go for the weapons first, and then I'll go for the armors to pen. The accessories, don't worry about them. We'll just upgrade to Tuvala. Next up, step 2, this is the early game. We're officially in the early game, so now you're progressing your Tuvala gear. Now, obviously on screen you see a full set of pen Tuvala, but you want to know which order to go enhancing and how to progress through the whole Pride Tuvala and base accessories all the way to full pen. So ideally, usually I try to get both my weapons and armors to try. Try is pretty easy. You have the concentrated stones, which will get you try without failing. But then you want to start working on your accessories. Initially get them to duo or try and have a base set. And then I like to enhance a new set all the way to pen and then upgrade as I go. I like to always have a backup so I'm not falling behind the AP required to grind up my favorite grind spots. So in an ideal world, I get my weapons to tet and then to pen first. And then I would work on the accessories in parallel with my weapons and armors. The last thing I get to pen is the armors. Now for the accessories, you don't want to do all 6. You only want to enhance 1 for the ring and 1 for the earring, and then your belt and your necklace. The reason is, as you level up to 60, you'll get 1 earring and 1 ring at pen for free. So make sure you don't enhance all 6. Now once you do get to full pen Tuvala, your main grind spots are generally going to be like Centaurs, Kratuga, Star's End, maybe Thornwood Forest if you're interested, if you have a big AoE class with good super armors, and Calpheon Elvia spots, the lower ones, which you can kill pretty easily. Otherwise, once you get to full pen Tuvala, you're just saving up and getting ready to graduate. Whether you graduate early or you just sit it out in the seasonal server, that's up to you. It's a personal preference. Some people like the safe grinding of seasonal. Some people like going and PvPing on seasonal with normalized gear where everyone's just full pen Tuvala. So that's up to you when you decide to graduate. And one thing to note, whether you start it when you're progressing for Tuvala or even sooner, you just need to be level 56. But once you're level 56, you can start doing your Jetina Daily to get a free pen accessory. It's not actually free because you have to get some other materials, but it's much cheaper than buying a full-fledged pen accessory. So the daily quest, you can either go to specified grind spots and kill mobs, or you can get a general kill quest for like 3,000 mobs or something, and then just have that running in the background while you play the game and finish it off in the day. It's pretty easy to do. I have a video on how to get all the kills in just 10 minutes on a horseback with a ranger with very minimal gear. I did that for many days because I wasn't really playing the game, but I still wanted to do my daily. It takes about 45 days to get your pen accessory minimum, but it could take longer if you are missing days and if you're doing the life skill version instead of the grinding version, which only gives you 1 reward instead of 2. Overall, you want to get that started ASAP. There are not many dailies in this game per se that are mandatory, but this one I think is an important one, and I know it's a pain in the ass to do daily quests. I don't like them, but it is really worth it. Hang on, we're going to get back to the gear progression really quick, but about 2 weeks ago from the time you're watching this video, I released a leveling guide. And in that leveling guide, I said 81% of you guys are not subscribed, so please subscribe. I checked my analytics like right before I started recording. Now 83% of you guys are not subscribed, but the views have gone up. So please just hit the subscribe button. Also like, comment if you enjoy the video or if you find it helpful, or if you don't like it, dislike it, and let me know in the comment section why. And if you do anything different, let us know in the comment section as well. Lastly, if you're swiping for A-coins, use code Pansy. Really helps your boy out. Appreciate it. Now, step 3, post-season. What do you buy first? How do you change your gear and progress your gear as soon as you've graduated from season? Well, there's a few changes on the screen, and I'm going to go through all of them, so just give me a moment here. First, obviously, you got your Jetina ring. This might be Tet by the time you graduate. If you've been on top of it and you had enough time doing the Jetina dailies, it might be Pen. So depending on where you're at, you can swap that, whichever. I'll just leave it at Tet for now. And then you want to get your seasonal reward. As you graduate from season, you can pick one seasonal reward. Generally, the first one people pick is going to be the necklace because that's probably the biggest AP gain. Getting a Tet necklace is pretty expensive versus getting one of the other rewards. But it's personal preference if you do have enough money laying around or if your region is wonky with the prices. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure the necklace is going to be what you want. Then if you look at my weapons, whether you're playing Succession or Awakening, that's up to you. If you're playing Succession, you can stick with this Pen Awakening weapon. If you are going to go Awakening, you might switch to a Tri Blackstar or a Tet Blackstar in the future. So this little get up over here in terms of the different steps I show you might be different for a few steps, but that's personal preference right there when you're going to switch out, when it seems economical. One of the most important things to remember when you're doing upgrades, like these are all pretty free upgrades. I'll get to this offhand in a moment, but one thing to remember is to do the math for how much does the item upgrade cost divided by how many AP or DP points I'm getting. And that's usually the general rule of thumb when you're going from one item to the next. You're usually buying your cheapest AP upgrade or your DP upgrades. But there are some exceptions to that rule. That being, if getting a more expensive item, which is less efficient in terms of that formula, will get you to a new AP bracket, you might want to get that one instead. But otherwise, you usually follow this rule in terms of cost divided by amount of AP you're getting. But overall, I'll still explain this whole process here. All right, next up is the Vambraces. So this is the Kudum reformed from the Jetina method. So Jetina allows you to do a guaranteed upgrade between Tet to Pen, boss armor, or weapons. And each time you do it, it becomes more expensive. For every weapon you upgrade through the Jetina method, it's going to be more expensive for the next weapon and the next weapon. Every armor you upgrade, it's going to be more expensive for the next armor and the next armor. So usually we don't do all our armors through the Jetina method because at some point it starts getting more expensive than it's worth. Same thing with the weapon. So you usually do like one weapon and maybe 2 armors, or it's usually just one weapon and one armor doing this method. In terms of the weapon, I chose Kudum because Kudum is a really nice upgrade. Getting that Pen Kudum, it's huge. So getting this reformed Kudum to rank 5 is equivalent to getting a Pen Kudum. So what you want to do is you want to get this as the reformed, usually if it's the most expensive thing on the marketplace. Usually when you're deciding which Jetina upgrade and reform to do, you're going for the most expensive thing on the market. As for the armors, I would usually just go which one I want to Kafra first and upgrade. Like if we're going for Fallen God armor and you're farming your own thing versus buying a Fallen God armor straight up, then you'd probably go for the armor or whichever piece you want to upgrade first to the next variant. That is going to be the Labreska helmet or the Dawn's gloves, Fallen God armor. You do get a free pen armor from doing the entire Magnus quest line, so just keep that in mind as well. But that's basically the gist of the reformed Jetina stuff. Now let's move on to step 4. You are entering the mid game. Once you've gotten all of these stuff, you could say you're pretty much at the end of the early game and walking into mid game. Now, how do you enter mid game? Well, now you're going to start replacing a lot of those Tuvala stuff. So you're going to have your accessories as well as your armors, which are generally going to be replaced. Now, as I said earlier, if you're playing Awakening, then you'll have a Tet Blackstar here, but you'll also ideally get a Tet Blackstar for your main hand eventually, because the main hand gives you a lot of monster AP and stuff from the Blackstar, so it's really good. Otherwise, you'll have a Zarka. It's fine. But the big things here are going to be your accessories. So one is going to be the Pen Jetina from your dailies, and then you can buy a Pen Crescent, or you can go for an Eye of the Ruin Ring. So the Eye of the Ruin Rings gives HP. And in alternative to Basilisk Belt, you can get a Voltara Belt, which also gives HP. HP is a very important stat for PvPers. Like, I didn't recommend which cup to go for your rings because PvPers generally go for the HP one. PvEers who don't care about PvP will go for the crit damage ones. Or if you're looking for more damage in PvP, you can go crit damage, whatever. But, you know, it differs depending on what you're doing. So that's why I didn't select anything for those. Now for the earrings, you could save up for distos. I know some people would be like, just go straight distos, but distos are really expensive now. In the future, if you're watching this, if they're not expensive, then hey, good for you, right? But Tet Tungrad earrings, they're like 6 bill right now on the server. So 6 bill is like nothing compared to the 20-something bill distos, Tet distos cost, right? So they're not a bad option just to get some initial AP gain. But by the time you get to mid game, you want to start doing your journals. You want to have at least a few of them done. So let's take a quick look at the journals here. Especially if you're a new player, you'll have all of these to do. So much fun, right? Yeah. Things like Deve's Encyclopedia, they require a lot of items. You want to put those pre-orders in as early as possible. So over time, as they fill, as you get those items, you can go complete the slog. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And as for Iger Bartali, that's a lot of AP, a lot of DP, accuracy, HP, all those good stats. You want to make sure you do them as soon as possible, I'd say. For the most part, most of these aren't too terrible. Some of them are more time consuming and tedious. Just look up individual guides for them. Overall, you'll eventually want to do all of them. Even I haven't done all of them because since I stopped playing actively, a few new ones came out. So, hey, more free gear score, right? So I don't mind doing them. I just gotta get through the quest line and whatnot. That's annoying. But I'm going to just assume by the mid game, you've already started journals. Doesn't matter which order you do them, just do them eventually. I know they take time, but none of us are entitled to gear score for nothing, because if everyone just got it for free, then it would be meaningless. You put in time to do those journals. They're annoying, they're tedious, but there is a good reward to them. So make sure you do your journals. Anyway, so we covered most of the things that do change here. Now, as for the boss armors, like I said, which new tier item like the Fallen God, Labreska, or Don's you want to go first? And if you want to make it yourself, otherwise if you want to buy it, then you can go those in terms of the reform. The others you can just buy. One of the items will be Magnus. And then how we progress from there, we'll go on to the next step right here, mid game 2. So the big change here is going to be that Velsheart. Those are expensive, and there's quite a few pre-orders on them. Garmot's Heart have even worse pre-orders. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. It seems so impossible to get one of those. But anyway, get it when you can. I just put it here because, you know, by the time you get to this point, it is actually a pretty decent upgrade, 3 solid AP, right? It's more of a waiting game on when that pre-order fills, or if you get lucky at Vels. Now, the other big change you'll see in mid game 2 is going to be the calf res. So caffering your gear is really easy DP. Like, as you can see, each piece at just C4, that's giving you 4 DP for just 1.1k calf res, and that's like what, 3.4 bill or something, 3.5 bill, whatnot, which is pretty solid. That's a pretty solid gain. Now, you don't need to go this round. You could calf res less or more. But if you are caffering them, you got to think how you're progressing to the next tier of gear. If you are looking to make your own, you want to get your own flame, whether through pre-order or grinding, and you want to see 10, then you're going to focus your Caphras on the first item you're going to be getting to the next tier. So whether it's the Fallen God armor, whether it's Labreska, that's up to you. But generally, that's the gist of it. You can get that easy DP by spreading out your Caphras, or you can focus on your next big upgrade to the next tier of armors. Whoops, forgot to keep this at rank 5. Let me just actually change this to just Penkudum straight up. All right, moving on to the final stage of mid-game. Now, there's a lot going on here. As you can see, I changed all of these armors to the next tier of gear, which it's probably not going to be the case for you. I just put it here as placeholders. I didn't upgrade them. This is just to signify what your goals are, because these are gear that you'll eventually upgrade to duo and try, and that'll be a solid source of DP for you. But the most important thing when going for mid-game, throughout the mid game in terms of DP, that's going to be dependent on where you want to grind. Do you have enough DP to grind at your big moneymaker spot? Like, if you don't have enough DP to grind at orcs, then you probably want to get that. If you want more DP so you can do something like Gyphon Underground or something, that's more towards the late game, but you want to focus on that. So it's going to be dependent on what you want to do. This is just like placeholders. You know, you can change those to C5 or whatever, C5 or something, boss armors, wherever you're at. But the main important thing is you want to start working towards them, and you want to decide how you want to get them. Do you want to get them through your own grind, or do you want to just buy them straight up at like prior duo? Personal choice. But once you do get all 3 of these, then you'll just start funneling all your Caphras into the last piece of item where you don't have the upgraded version yet in the game. That is going to be your shoes. You will also put some Caphras into your Kudum eventually to like C7, because the upgrade from Kudum, Penkudum to Blackstar is not drastically high, so getting a C7 Kudum isn't a bad option. But for the most part, you'll be Caphering your shoes. Now, as for the weapons, the reason I put Godride here, I know getting a Pen Godride is meme because by math, it's more expensive to enhance your own Godride to Pen rather than getting a Pen Blackstar. But these do have a place in the game. These are the intermediary weapons between Tet Blackstar and Pen Blackstar. There's a big difference between Tet and Pen Blackstar, and getting a duo or a tri Godride, just enhancing your own, it's not a bad idea. Like, honestly, they're pretty solid for what they are, and they do give you a pretty decent boost from going from Tet Blackstar. So you definitely want to at least have one of those, depending on whichever is your main thing. Like, if you're playing Awakening, getting a duo or a tri Godride in your Awakening, and just having a Blackstar, a Tet Blackstar in your main hand, that's fine. But enhancing them to duo is pretty easy. I didn't have too much difficulty with that. But all in all, this is what mid-game generally looks like. I know these might be different in terms of the armors. You might have Pen armor still, and you're slowly working through these. I don't expect you to have all 3 of them by the time you enter mid-game or late game, because that's going to be dependent on how lucky you get with your pre-orders, or if you get it for a good price, or you're grinding for it and you haven't gotten your flame because you haven't grinded enough, or you are not lucky enough. So this is really down to the individual, so just keep that in mind. All right, guys, now we are entering the late game. So I split late game 1 and 2 based on DP and AP, and the order in which you go for these upgrades is going to be dependent on where you're grinding. If you have enough DP and you're comfortably grinding where you're at, then you don't need more DP, you need more AP so you can grind faster. If you want to get to a spot like Gyphon Underground or Hex Sanctuary, Trolls, and you need DP, then that's when you're building DP. But the main upgrades here for DP here are going to be your duo, Fallen God, Labreska, and Dawn's Glove. So getting it to duo is basically the soft cap, right? So it's not too difficult. It takes a little bit of effort, but the enhancement rates are not terrible. Getting from duo to try, that's another challenge, but getting to this point is 100% doable. As far as your calf raying situation goes, it depends on where you're grinding. If you're grinding at a spot where you get a lot of calf drops like Gyphon Underground, obviously this is going to progress a lot faster and a lot further. If you're grinding like orcs or something, and you're not getting any Caphras and like LVN and stuff, then obviously this is going to be a bit slower, and then you're going to be pre-ordering your Caphras, etc. So it really depends on where you're grinding. So that's why I didn't really go in depth into updating your Caphra levels. The main takeaway in terms of DP is how you're upgrading your Fallen God Labresca and Dawn's Gloves. Get them all to Pry first, and then start getting them to Duo. And then you can forget about it for a pretty long time. Then coming to late game 2, this is the AP upgrades. That is going to be mainly your distos and C7 for your Penkudum if you have the Caphras. Like I said earlier, depends on your Caphra supply. But distos are going to be in the crosshairs now. They are pretty expensive right now, but they do fluctuate, and it is something people like to gamble on. However you go about it, that's up to you. But distos are going to be what you're looking at this point. Me personally, I got them a lot sooner before I got to this point. We also had less journals back then. I didn't have Godride weapons, so that's why my AP was a lot lower, and I got these sooner. But this is a good point to start thinking about it. If you can get to near 290 without getting any distos, then that's something, right? But at this point, you'll have enough DP to be able to sacrifice to get distos, and even at 385 DP, like I can grind Hex pretty well. As a Mystic, as a Zerker, I have no problem with 385. Now, once again, like I said, depending on your supply of Caphras, you might get your boots to C9 and your Penkudum to C7, and you'll also look to get some more AP through your Godride. So let's just go to the next section here. Go ahead and update that one. So late game 3, you're going to focus on getting your Godride, depending on whether you're a Succession player or Awakening player, because you can keep the other thing at like Pry Godride, Duo Godride, whatever. But your main weapon is going to be the one that goes to Try, and you'll also start thinking about upgrading your Vel's Heart, because by the time you get to late game 2, you have more than enough stats to be grinding at decent Calpheon LVS spots. I know recently, maybe some months ago, from when this video came out, they buffed the Calpheon LVA grind spots to give more despairs and stuff. So you might be upgrading your Vels a lot sooner. You might just buy those off the marketplace, grind elsewhere for money, and just upgrade it that way. Personal preference, how you decide to play the game, but this is a really good source of DP for DP, and getting your Try Godride is a good solid next step here. And now let's look at the final stage for late game. So the reason why I call this late game final is everything you see here. I replaced the 2 other accessories with Tungrad. You don't need to do this. It's personal preference once again. At this point, you can even say, I don't need that 1 AP. I can go for either Ruined Ring and get more HP if you're a PvP or whatever. Personal preference. But the reason why I put this set of gear here is because nothing here is too terribly expensive. After this point, though, things are going to start costing 40 bill, 50 bill, 70 bill, 130 bill, whatever. But this is going to be, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I'm going to go ahead and call it the reasonable soft cap in this day and age. Like, this is a reasonably doable goal to get to this point. Okay, soft cap might be pushing it, I know. But this is a very achievable goal for any player. Even if you're not like playing 10 hours a day, you can easily get these. The most expensive things here are the Godride weapons. You can get a Tet Blackstar and enhance your own Try Godride pretty easily. It's not as bad as other things in the game. Distos are expensive, true. But other than that, just playing the game, you can progress through all of these items. And it's not that bad in my opinion. I think this is a very attainable goal for a lot of people. So that concludes late game. Now, getting to this, like, you can pretty much do everything except for the new Ash Forest and the new Olens they just added at the time of release of this video. But other than that, you can do almost everything else. You might have trouble in Crypt, take a Shy with you, but otherwise you can grind Hex and Trolls no problem with this gear. I have less gear and I'm grinding it pretty well. So, Hey, not everyone needs to get to end game because some of us have lives, but let's keep going with the guide. Now, I was kidding about the life thing. Listen, as long as you play the game consistently and you pick up money where the game gives you, and even if you're not spending like 3-4 hours a day grinding, you can still progress in the game. I'm just kidding over there, but let's keep going. Now we're entering a realm where I'm not talking from personal experience. So my apologies if my route here is not appealing, because this isn't meant to be appealing. By this time, you should know which item to upgrade next, because once you get to 700 gear score, you're not thinking about like, oh, just AP, unless you're a pure PvE player. But a lot of players are going to be thinking about how to flesh out their PvP build. They're going to be thinking about getting switches, like their accessories for evasion, more DR accessories, offense for evasion or accuracy. So it's going to start really differentiating between players, and there isn't a set pathway to go about it, because what's this game about? Why are you grinding anyway? Why do you want all that gear? The biggest thing in this game, in my opinion, is PvP. I think that's the true end game, because there's not much else other than running on a hamster wheel, making money, and then buying gear. You use that gear to PvP. So by the time you get to end game, I honestly really suggest players start building your PvP build. Get that fleshed out. If you're not a DR class, very few classes can actually use DR. I used DR in this example because evasion's not really helping you much in PvE anyway, so might as well get more accuracy and do more DPS. But otherwise in PvP, a lot of classes are going to be switching to evasion. So that's just my little rant and words of wisdom. But let's get on with the upgrades. Once you get to the late game, you're going to be thinking about Pen Blackstar. Should you upgrade Godride? By math, no. If you want to, you can. It's your game, play it how you want. But you want to focus on getting Blackstar. Whether it's going to be getting a second Tet and just tapping it on the side, up to you. But Blackstar is going to be a huge upgrade in terms of AP and DPS overall. Now, looking at the belt situation, a Bassy belt is pretty cheap. It's like, what, 40 bill or something? But by this time, is that little bit of AP really going to make a difference? Or would you want to go for something which gives you more survivability? If you're DR, then maybe a Voltara belt or something. So that's going to be a bit more expensive. Once again, with the rings, Eye of the Ruin ring is going to be more expensive. And with the necklace, Ogre ring, on NA, it runs 80 bill, I believe. So it's not too bad, but Black Stars are going to be the most expensive thing. You get a solid 5 AP upgrade from Ogre Ring, so I can't knock on it too much. Overall, in terms of what accessory, like honestly, at this point you'll know which to go, because if I was in this situation, I would think about PvP. I would think about getting a really solid PvP build, a really capable build where I can start having fun doing that and get like my evasion fleshed out. And for Endgame 2, I'm not really going too in depth about this once again, because it's a really personal preference on how you want to proceed here. Do you like grinding Ash Forest? Great, you can go Debo Necklace. You got too much money laying around? Go for the Pen Blackstar offhand. But overall, guys, honestly, by the time you're at the end game, I'm not the person to be making this suggestion. I've already said what I wanted to say. Work on your PvP set. Play the game how you feel happy playing. Right here, nonsense. Right here, I just put all this gear out there because eventually you'll start going for your try. And once you're at pretty much max gear, that's when you start going for your Tets here. You'll eventually want to go for Pen Blackstar earrings, or you're going to go for Debo earrings. You'll think about getting at least one accessory with accuracy to pen. Once again, personal preference, but that's about it. I can't even bullshit anymore here. This is like hard cap gear. By this time, you should be telling me what to do. Anyway, no, actually, why am I even doing this? If you're at this stage of the game, if you're past the end game, if you're higher gear score than me, you shouldn't even be watching this video. Get out of here. Like, comment, and subscribe first, though. All right, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it helpful. I'm pretty confident a lot of that information would help a new player. If you do have better suggestions, please let me know. I know there's a lot of points where you can start thinking about getting like offhand switches, accessory switches and stuff for PvP, whatnot. That's really personal preference. I know I can't go every scenario through this format in a single video. So just keep all those things in mind. Yeah, I hope you found it helpful. Please do like, comment, and subscribe if you did. Make sure you use code Pansy on checkout so you can support your boy here. And that's it for this video. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.